Hi everyone, and welcome to another Camera Jabber video. Today I'm speaking with Hannah Couzens, who's a Sony Alpha Universe Ambassador. Hi Hannah, how are you?
Hi Angela, I'm really good, thank you. Thank you for having me, this is fun.
Oh, thank you for joining me. Now you said you're going to show us how to get 5 different looks using one light for
Exactly,
portraits.
exactly right. Yeah, so pretty much I think that we were having a bit of fun, sort of like trying to think of what we could do sort of during this lockdown to sort of share with people. And I always think that, I mean, people ask me, what lights should I get? How many lights should I get? All of this. And I always say the same thing, which is if you learn what to do with one light or just see how much you can make one light work for you,
Mm-hmm.
then, learn that first before you go on to anything else. Plus the fact, I still think, even though I don't want to tell you how many lights I've got, I still end up using one most of the time. Still, some of my favourite pictures are just taken with one light. So we
Yeah,
thought it was a good thing to share with people, a bit of fun.
great. Now were they all shot where you are now?
Yeah, exactly. So if you can see behind me, I'm in my home garage studio because, well, obviously, because we can't go anywhere. So I converted this garage. It was honestly, it was full of spiders, and I don't even want to think what else. About sort of 18 months ago, and then I just sort of decided that I would quite like to have a space from home where I could work. Now I don't have the public here or anything like that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just a nice space to have if we decided to film a video or sort of do some images for a magazine. It just means that I can do it whenever I want, and I don't have to drive to either two of my other studios. I could do it at 3 o'clock in the morning if I wanted to. So it's
Yeah.
proved the best thing I could have done during this lockdown period, though. It's just so handy to have.
Oh, great. I have a separate office/studio as well. And one of the things I really like is I can do some photography and then sort of think, I just leave everything and go into the house, and you can just come back the next day and everything's still there to get going again.
Yeah, exactly. And the silly thing is that in my other studio, I could absolutely do the same thing, but I just never feel it's the same. I always feel like I have to tidy everything up and put everything away. Out here, you're right. There's been times where we've been filming something and we've stopped, gone and had dinner, and then just come back and carried on. So it's worked out quite nicely, really.
And it's handy that because it's a garage, well, most people can probably visualize the size of that as well.
Yeah, so it's really, I mean, these are half-width paper rolls behind me, if you can see,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a standard garage door. I mean, it still makes me laugh to think that you could even fit a car in here. I mean, you'd have to drive a Mini, I think, but like yeah, it's only about, I think it's 6 meters this way, probably by about 3 meters that way. So it's not, I mean, you couldn't be doing, well, I mean, you struggle to do sort of family shoots or anything like that in here anyway. But for me, it was mostly a sort of ideal space where I could sort of photograph one or possibly two people just for sort of tutorials and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been great.
Nice. Great stuff. I'm glad you've got it.
Yeah, me too.
So would you like to share your screen to show some pictures?
Yeah, cool. So pretty much, so this is hilarious as well because of course I couldn't, we decided to sort of film this. I'm saying this is my other half because there was nobody else that I could get to model, and I certainly wasn't going to do it. So I said to him, I was like, do you mind being the model? So yeah, pretty much thankfully he was kind enough to step up. So we went for 5 different looks. I mean, we could have done a few more, but we thought, right, let's try and keep them sort of different enough, but so still easily achievable for people. So the first image, and it wasn't just so we've basically made a little tutorial video about this as well. We filmed it at the same time, so it's probably nice to see that too. So you can sort of put it all together, but see where the light position is, etc. But for this one, if you can imagine sort of obviously you can see he's sat down on a chair and he's got the front leg elevated, but how this is lit is I was using a medium white umbrella deep from Profoto with a diffuser on it. So the reason I'm saying the brand is so you can look up how big a medium is, because don't ask me, I haven't got a clue. Whatever that is in centimeters or inches, I really don't know. But that was but point is, it's a pretty big light source.
Yeah.
So I was after with this one, trying to create much more of a soft light and not really and the light was positioned slightly ahead of him as well. So we're not getting like a massive sort of hotspot in a particular place. The light's kind of quite even throughout.
Mm-hmm.
It's positioned, it's boomed above him in the center. So we've got you can start to identify that sort of, by the shadows around the side of the face and under the nose here. So it's in that sort of butterfly position. And there was something else that I sort of really wanted to make a point about when we were creating these images, is that it's not just the light that makes a difference, it's the background choice and the clothing and sort of those other things as well that can influence the image. So obviously we went for something very dark here, and it's like dark and quite moody, but I still wanted that soft light. So really simple, just a bigger light source here, slightly positioned in front of him. And yeah, that's what we got, moody shot.
So are you sort of shooting directly under the light?
Yeah, so exactly right. So it's basically, if you can just sort of make out those boom arms behind me that swing out from the wall,
Right.
that pretty much swings overhead, and it's straight ahead. So I can shoot underneath it, and I'm using battery powered lights, so I'm not having any cables or anything like that. So thankfully, I could just beam it straight over the top, shoot underneath it, and that was pretty simple. So thankfully, I was able to do that without much hassle, which is good.
And it is a really nice soft light, isn't it? 'Cause you've got shadow on his cheeks, but it's a real nice soft graduation.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that, because I sort of I do, if you're aware of my work, I do like a lot. I like to shape the face sort of a lot, and you know, especially using shadows. I know a lot of people like to sort of fill all the shadows, but for me, it's sort of, that's what gives the definition. So I like to play with that a lot. But yeah, at the same time, I would say in general, I prefer a softer light to a harder light. It depends on the subject and what you're trying to say, etc., etc. But for this particular look, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be nice and soft, but still have some structure, hence the light being over the top and pushing those shadows downwards.
Great. And the background, was it a grey background, or have you achieved that just through the exposure?
Yeah, no, this actually was the grey. So I've got a white and a grey behind me, and yeah, this was the grey. So there was he was still positioned quite far forward though, because of course we could have ended up with a little bit of spill there, and I did want it all to go quite dark. So yeah, that is actually using the grey this time. Yeah. So that's that image, so which he's nicked and put on his website. So he must have been fairly happy with it. So
I think if I was him, I would as well.
He's getting all these free pictures. I should start charging him. All right. So the next one was a little bit different. As you can see, there's kind of a bit of a variety here in that we've changed the outfit. So gone for a sort of more of a blue denim shirt, a bit more relaxed. And here I just had him leaning against the wall. So just kind of quite casual, because I sort of find that if people, you know, I get asked a lot, how do you pose people? And it is difficult. It's one of the hardest things to learn. And even sometimes, you know, all these years in, I'm still sitting there going, okay, what's going to work for this person? But here I just had him sort of leaning against the wall, not too square because he's got massive shoulders. So to turn the body sort of helped a little bit. So it sort of helped, and it gives them something to do. Anyone can lean against the wall, you know, feel comfortable. It just helps. So he's leant against the white wall, shot down the back end of the garage. So I've got basically a massive white wall. I mean, this is the trouble with the garage, of course, is that you don't want it to look like a dungeon in here. So all the walls are white, but that does also affect how your light's going to behave, of course. So here I chose a very narrow 1x3 strip box, because what I didn't want to do, if I was to use the same umbrella that I'd used previous shot, light would have just gone everywhere. It would have been bouncing off the garage door or off the other walls, as you can imagine. So I decided here to use the strip so I could keep that sort of light pattern on his face. And it's actually surprising how dark it actually is on the side of his face, considering he's stood right next to a white garage door. So yeah, by just sort of bringing it very close, I was able to get, you know, quite fast fall off, and yeah, it was the strip worked well there. And I sort of find it's one of those modifiers that I tend to use for sort of backgrounds and kickers and things like that. I don't really use it that often for a key light, so this is a bit of fun and experimental for me too.
Right, yeah, so it's worked really well. So presumably the light he's leaning on the wall with his left shoulder, and the light is actually relatively close to his left shoulder, is that right?
Yeah, it's just, honestly, it's just out of frame. Like it's so close on that side. I wanted to get it as close, two reasons really. I wanted the fall off, but also because the strip is obviously quite narrow, I did also want there to be a reasonable catch light in his eye as well. So as I brought it closer, it appeared bigger as well, which helps. So yeah, so it's literally as close as I could get it without it being in frame.
Okay.
That one. You got any more questions about that one?
No, it's a lovely image though. I really like it. So
Good, thank you.
yeah,
Oh, the
really
other
well.
thing I should probably add here as well is that it was angled slightly down. It's sort of tilting down towards the floor. Reason being, if I'd have put it straight, what we could have had is we could have ended up sort of having this nose shadow cast across the face and not making this triangle.
Right.
So I did angle
Yeah.
it down. I must mention that.
So is the top of it slightly above him?
Yeah, exactly right. It's kind of
Yeah.
like that. Exactly right. You've got it. Exactly right.
It's not really illuminating the top of his head.
Thankfully. He wouldn't have liked that. All right, so this image again, it's quite interesting here. I'm not exactly sure because I can't, I'm on my laptop and I can't see how the contrast is, but because everything looks kind of dark, so I hope the images, you can see that there is some separation between the background here, but it does look very dark on my screen, so let's hope that you can see it. I hope brightness is all up and everything. But yes, pretty much here we went for something that was a little bit different in that it was a bit more formal. So we tried to sort of go through a whole, it wasn't, like I say, it's not just the light, it's the whole feel of the image. And that comes together with the, the way you shape the light, the pose, the outfit choice and the background. So there's lots of things at play. So this one we went for a bit more formal. Again, just very simple one light here. But this time, rather than the 1x3 strip that I used a softbox of a 2x3. So I'm increasing the size of the light source to make it bigger.
Yeah.
So still using a softbox, because if I'd have used an umbrella here, I don't think he was standing opposite a white wall. So I had to be quite careful that didn't turn into a massive bounce and started filling everything up. So same thing, positioned on this side, pointing, angling down. Just a real simple image, really. I've decided to go without eye contact for this one, and I've done that with a couple, which is quite rare for me. But yeah, I was like, right, let's just fiddle, just do something, just fiddle with your cuffs, do something, and let's get a sort of different kind of image out of this. Again, this obviously, it was on the grey because it's very dark, and he was stood very, very close to it as well.
Yeah. Was it hard to get the reflection on his watch just right? Because you can still see the watch.
Yes, I'll be totally honest with you here, actually, Angela. This was a bit of a fluke because I was taking several shots either side because I was like, I don't know whether I like it or not. When I was shooting it, I was like, I don't know whether I like the reflection or whether I want to turn it away. I can't really decide. So I was like, turn it forward, turn it back again. I don't know. I just took several because I couldn't really make my mind up. I probably can't even still make my mind up whether I like it or not, or whether I find it distracting. But most people tended to not. Well, most people said they liked the reflection in the watch, so I thought, okay, fine. that's fine. It just shows sometimes you're not always the best judge to be picking out your own photos.
I think you're right to try a few different looks, because also you don't know what you might want further down the line. You might want an image with a reflection, and you might want one without for different reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I was quite surprised he actually had his watch on. So I was like, when it was there, I was like, oh, hang on, like, okay, so now we've got this to play with. And it was another element. It was an element of surprise. I wasn't expecting it to be there. So I was like, okay, what do I want to do with this? But definitely after we'd taken this shot, there was definitely some other shots where he was sat down and in relaxed clothing. I was like, get that watch off. It doesn't suit the outfit. So sometimes I think it's great when you can incorporate it into the look. So for this one, it kind of works, but the rest of the time I'm just trying to remove as much as possible that I find distracting, because I want it to be about the person.
And when you're actually taking the shot, is he actually moving, or have you got him still?
No, I do get him to move, because I always feel that I don't know. I find that if you tell people to do something, I'm doing it with him to begin with. So I was just saying to him, right, you could fiddle with a wedding ring if you had one. We're not married, so no. Or sort of, whatever it is, people don't really wear cufflinks so much these days. But I say to them, right, just fiddle with this, but actually do it, because I find that it just looks a little bit more natural if they're actually doing it and I catch them while they're doing it. If I say to them, right, hold this, sometimes you just literally get that or something, or they're locked hands together or something, which just feels a little bit more false. So I'm shooting the whole time, as I say. That's why this was a bit of a fluke with a watch of where he got it. So I was like, turn it, no, maybe bring it back again. I can decide. So I do definitely get them to actually do it as well, while we're actually to actually go through the movement and actually do it, so it looks a bit more natural.
So that's a really good tip. And do you normally use IAF?
All the time. Yeah.
So are
it's
you
so
using
funny.
it here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's so weird. It's one of
Mm.
those strange things that I remember when I first moved over to Sony, and they were telling me about this eye autofocus, and I was like, oh yeah, right, that's a gimmick, like that's going to work, and all of this, me being Miss Cynical, and they said, oh, it works through glasses as well. I was like, yeah, all right, okay, does it? Turns out it does. And it's brilliant. And the strange thing was, both of us, he's also a Sony shooter, and we were laughing the other day, it was just yesterday, he went, oh my gosh, I said, I think I've actually forgotten how to use any other kind of focus. Because we use it all the time. Like he filmed this video whilst being the model, and we were just using the same focus mode for everything. It just is easy. It sort of feels like cheating. But it's great, it's fantastic. So definitely I just use it all the time now. The only time probably that I wouldn't is in a group shot, maybe.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
But with individuals, it does mean you can really focus on everything else, or sorry, perhaps I should say concentrate. It's a bit confusing. You can concentrate on everything else, like the composition and the exposure, and not have to worry about
absolutely
focus, because you've nailed it. So it is really useful, I think.
Yeah, you're so right, actually, because there's a shot that is coming. I don't think it's next. I think it's the one after. But that's where I drop the aperture, and that's where you really notice it. Because I remember when I wasn't shooting before. I mean, there's probably a difference. I was shooting with a different system. I'd usually find I had a fantastic lens. It's wonderful, and when it was sharp, it was really sharp. But for every 5 images that you took, sometimes you got 1 out of the 5 that was really sharp. So now it's almost a bit of a problem, because you think, I'm in that habit of taking too many photos, but they're all sharp. So I'm like, okay, great. Now I've just filled up my memory card for no reason. So that's fun.
But it is true. If you're shooting, say, 85mm at 1.4, and you get it on the focus on the eyebrows or the eyelashes, it makes a difference.
Right, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, for me, I sort of have it's weird as well, because of how close I tend to shoot. I shoot fairly close anyway. I have a sort of tendency, the kind of general rule for me is that I tend not to shoot any lower than 2.8. When I'm shooting like this. I mean, obviously if I'm shooting outside and the distance is different, then you've got more to play with depth of field. But when I'm this close, I just find that shooting anything lower than around 2.8 or sometimes f2, for my personal taste, I'm not so much of a fan of having so much blur that you've only got a little thing. And it's exactly like you say, Angela, if you miss it, or if it decides that, well, not missing it even, it's if it goes on the eyelash and then everything else is kind of gone, it can distract me more than it brings to me, if you see what I mean. So but that's personal. It's totally personal preference. But for me, I sort of think I like both eyes in focus, and I like this whole sort of area in focus, rather than it just being, but that's my personal taste and how close I shoot as well. If I'm shooting outside and I'm quite far away, then of course I'll increase it for sure. But I just maybe it's the amount of coffee I drink as well, it could be a bit of a problem. So let's move on to the next one. So here we decided to I am shooting on a white background, but I didn't want it to be white. If I did want it to be brighter, then I would have moved the light further back, so it would have grown further. It's the inverse square law. So I just still wanted it to be off white, and as you can see, you can sort of get. You can get a feel of my work here, is that there's definitely a lot of shadow going on, which isn't going to be to everyone's taste, and I totally get that. That's fine. It's just that it's how I shoot, because I like to create that on the face. So here, this was he's just sat on the floor, nice and simple. As you can see, outfits changed as well, and everything's sort of much more casual in this one. Still using the 2x3 softbox, so the same modifier as I used before. Actually lit from the same side as well. It's just that we've brought everything down. We were able to create that separation from the background, and also just to help us out a little bit, I've added a black reflector, which sounds like the most backward thing, but let's call it a flag, because otherwise that sort of seems to really screw everyone up. But a black flag, as we're looking at it on the right hand side of the picture, basically to suck up any of the light that would have been hitting the opposite wall of the garage and acting as a massive reflector. So I wanted to keep that structure there. I could have, it says to me, well, you know, why didn't you just use the 1x3, the strip box that you used before? Here, I wanted to light more of him. I wanted sort of the top to be, you know, more lit, and I wanted both sides, both bit more of the face to be lit, both cheeks to be lit up. So I didn't really want to use the skinny one again. I wanted to still use have the light spread of the 2x3, but block it off with something. So that's where our black flag come into play here. So very simple.
Yeah. No, it's really useful, I think, isn't it, to be able to sort of soak up a bit of light sometimes rather than always have it bouncing around, especially if you've got a completely white room like you have.
Yeah, exactly. Because like I said, my studio is the same, is that in an ideal world, okay, we'd all be sitting in grey studios. It'd be fantastic, yeah, because you could control light. But the reality of it is that, you know, it's your working office, and you know, you have other people here, you're meeting clients, etc. Certainly at my other studio, it's a bit weird if they come into a dungeon. So I try to make it a little bit nicer. But it also, I think it sort of teaches you to be a better photographer as well, because it does make you learn, like you say, how to suck up light and control light as well. So there's two images here actually. There's this one where the light was obviously quite far round to the side, enough to get light in the other eye and onto the other cheek, but I did then pull it round just a little bit more as well and got him to look straight out, so that it's just a different photo. It's really funny how we can go from this photo of eye contact and it being quite, you know, a bit of shadow, etc., to, you know, looking straight out, and suddenly it's like a completely different shot, which is interesting. So just by pulling the light round a little bit more, I've made sure it gets on more of his face, and yeah, it's not really lighting up that much more of the side of his face because of our flag, but it's just a different kind of shot. It's that sort of, now both eyes have really got quite a lot of attention because of the catch lights are really jumping. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and the switch between the eye contact and the lack of eye contact makes a big difference as well, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I sort of I can never figure out, it's one of these ones where he looks good with both, but I don't think many people do. I think it's in general, I prefer people, I suppose it's more of a challenge to get somebody to look at you with an expression that's, you know, and this is funny, I don't know about you, I always find that when you photograph people that you know really, really well, sometimes it's much harder, because you know their face so well and you're used to seeing all their expressions, to actually get them to do that on camera. Like he did a great job, but it's really interesting. It's sort of like to play with both. But I definitely find that, you know, when I'm photographing someone I don't know, I do want to go for eye contact. I want to get some kind of message across. But yeah, we just did everything. We just like, look here, look there, figure it out. Yeah. So it's good fun. It's good.
Great. And you mentioned but you know, keeping him moving, actually going through the motions of you know, not just pretending to do something. Do you shoot on continuous drive then?
Yeah, I do, but well, I can, yeah, but I don't go mad.
No.
I think it's actually, I'm saying yes, but I don't know whether, thinking about it, how often I really utilize it. I mean, I could have not really, because I don't like to, you know, I feel like when it's too intense, because obviously I'm using flash the whole time as well.
Right.
If it was like bang, 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 I could find it a little bit intense for the model. So I still do, although I'm not sort of smashing them out and just sort of, you know, I'm grabbing one, if you know what I mean. Because I find that unless we're shooting something that's massively fast in motion, I'm just sort of like hitting it in kind of probably a little bit faster, but not like a whole burst, because I think that would sort of put the model off, and then I've got to wait for the flash to recycle in time. Is it going to be fully powered or not, etc. So I try to slow it down.
Right.
I try.
So it's more about kind of being ready and watching and then taking the shot.
Exactly right. That's kind of how it is for me. It's there, but I'm just sort of, I'm thinking about it, and I'm saying that, I was thinking, actually, but yeah, I'm not really using it in that way. So it's funny, it's only when you stop and think about it, I'm like, maybe I don't even need to bother.
But I guess it's more about, if you wanted to, you know, it's just a question of waiting until the flash is recycled and you get another shot. You don't actually have to release the shutter button.
No, exactly. I mean, certainly we've been doing all sorts of live broadcasts from in here to try and sort of keep people entertained when we're over lockdown. And one week we were doing some water splashing. We were trying to deal with, explain to people and teach people about flash recycle time. And that was definitely one where we had to be on continuous shooting and everything was very high speed. So that was just kind of like, you know, hold it down, hope for the best, see what you were going to get at the end of it, really. But yeah, I mean, in terms of portraiture, unless, like I say, there's some sort of specific thing that I'm freezing, although it's in, and maybe I jump between them. Actually, that's good. It's interesting that you may be aware of it, Angela. I need to actually look and see how often do I jump between these two modes. It's interesting. I haven't really thought about that before. Interesting.
Well, let me know.
Yeah, sure. So there's the final image out of the 5. So I've got a silver beauty dish here, but what I did with it is I modified it a little bit. So I actually took out the center of the beauty dish and put a diffusion panel over the top. So basically I'm making a little baby silver softbox, as it were.
Right.
The reason, it sounds like a very strange thing to do, but as I said before, I like the softness. I wanted this shot to be quite intense. So I dropped my aperture firstly, so I'm down at 2.8 for this one. That was where I'm definitely using the eye autofocus to make sure I nailed that one. But the other thing is as well, I chose silver so that I've got a bit more punch and a little bit more contrast. So the darks went really dark and the highlights are a bit brighter. But I still I added the diffusion panel. Rather than just keeping it as a silver beauty dish, I wanted to keep it I wanted it to have contrast, but not. It's a bit of a strange thing to sort of try and get across. So basically by adding the panel, I've been able to sort of bring the contrast down a little bit, but yet having the silver interior means that it's still kind of there. Very confusing, I know. It's a bit of a weird thing to do, but yeah, sometimes I do this. I just play around with my modifiers and see what I can make and see what I can do.
I think it's a good thing to do, to experiment and see what you get.
Yeah, I find that I love playing with these things. I sort of like, what can I do here? I sort of knew in my head what I wanted to get. And sometimes it's not always that I don't always get it right straight away. And, you know, sort of sometimes I end up sort of doing that and going, that's not what I was after. But pretty much here, I thought there's something about just using the silver on its own. It was too punchy, as it were. Right. So adding the panel, I think because I knew that I wanted everything else really dark. I wanted it to be right in on his face. So the background was dark, the top's dark. It's like, you know, very, very intense. So I felt that perhaps if the highlights had been any brighter than that, I think it would have looked a bit too punchy for me. So, and I wanted it to sort of fit in as a series with the other images as well. So so it's a little weird modification to a silver beauty dish here. Very close, again, sort of trying to get that sort of like Rembrandt style onto his face, onto the cheek. And I have brought back in the black flag again to suck up the light on that side.
Okay. And is that diffuser panel, is it kind of like a shower cap type thing that you can stretch over the beauty dish?
Yeah, I was just looking in front of me here actually to see what I've got in my bag of tricks. So yeah, actually, funny enough, I've got one right here. Yeah, so it's exactly that. It might be a bit noisy, sorry, but if you can see that.
Right, okay, so that pops on very easily then.
Yeah, exactly right. So it just goes over the top. So exactly that. It's just a diffusion panel that can jump over the top of it, and it's it all comes. It all comes included, which is a result because that's what I like about that one is that I think it gives you the option to chop and change depending on how you're feeling. You know, if you want the punch of a beauty dish, great. If you don't, then it's a way to modify it, which I think is cool. Good.
Yeah, and you've got really great eye contact there, and you can see that the fall off is quite. You know, you said it's 2.8. The fall off is really quick, isn't it? Because his ear is really soft.
Yeah. It's I always find this fascinating when you photograph different people and how different apertures react to sort of, based on the sort of structure of their face. But it's I like that. It was great. I felt that any more. I mean, thankfully, it's picked up the front of his beard as well, which is kind of cool because you've got that texture in it too. But yeah, that was definitely one for the eye autofocus. It just nailed it, absolutely bang on. I was tempted to go a little bit lower, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to keep it at 2.8. When I saw what I was getting, I thought, that works for me. That's good. So you can still see the structure of his face, even though the nose is a little soft towards the end. I don't mind that. That's fine for me.
No, I think it works too. I think it's great. Really nice shot. Is he not using that for his profile picture anywhere then?
Oh, who knows, Angela? I mean, I think he's got a whole sort of stash of them now that he can just go. I mean, to be fair, all his profile pictures have just been sort of different images that he's had to stand in for a test shot for me. I think like that. So yeah, no doubt that one will make an appearance at some point. But we'll just keep recycling them and going over and over now. It's good fun.
Well, Hannah, it's been great to hear from you. Thank you so much for sharing your tips and your images.
Oh, not at all, Angela. Thank you for having me. I hope that just helps maybe give some people's little, ideas and tips and tricks and things about how you can just get lots of different looks, really, just with one light. You haven't got to spend a fortune. Just, play with the ones that you got to start off with.
Great. I'm sure it will help people. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.